On a day when the PGA Tour's two biggest stars, Rory and Scotty, are competing in Vegas against two of their former superstars who are still stars but playing for LIV, PGA Tour announcing, well, they announced that they're looking for a CEO. Jay Monahan, still commissioner, and will take a seat on the PGA Tour Policy Board. And we welcome in Golf Channel reporter Rex Hoggard. Rex, new leadership on the way. What's your top-line takeaway from today's announcement?
I think, Rich, if you go back over a year now, the PGA Tour started what they called a governance review at the time, and it was a really hard look of exactly what was going to happen, not just with the PGA Tour Inc., as you pointed out in that interview with Andy just now, but also PGA Tour Enterprises. A couple of things that need to get pointed out here. One, it seems to me that this is going to be a search into corporate America. You heard the response from Jay Monahan. He had a video message to fans this morning. He talked about new perspectives, bringing in new perspectives to the PGA Tour. That includes the search for the new CEO. That dovetails with what we've heard as far as who might take his place. Adam Silver's name came up a little bit over the course of that, but it is fascinating to me that we're moving forward and Jay Monahan's still going to be, it seems like, very much involved in the leadership of the PGA Tour, but this seems to be a change of direction.
I don't know if there's a link, but no secret that Jay Monahan and Greg Norman did not see eye to eye. Norman, on his way out at LIV, he'll have some sort of an advisory role going forward, but new man coming in there. To what extent does this clear the way for a PGA Tour deal with the Public Investment Fund?
I loved Andy's response to your question about where we stand on that negotiation right now, and I think his line was on the right track, and I think a lot of it has to do with the announcement today. To your point, I remember having a conversation with a player who joined LIV late last year, and he brought up the idea that we're not going to be able to come to some sort of agreement, some sort of deal between the two sides with the leadership that was in place. And I sort of stopped that player, and I said, I know you're talking about Jay Monahan, but the same applies to Greg Norman for a lot of different reasons. First and foremost, been pretty public about your criticism of each other. And when you have that, it's kind of difficult to imagine how those two could possibly sit in the room and come up with some sort of good faith effort to, quote unquote, fix professional golf, which is where we're at right now. It is curious. You look at the other side. Greg Norman is stepping down. It's been announced that he'll no longer be CEO of LIV Golf. His reported replacement is a CEO that came from NBA. NHL. He's very much in that world that SSG is coming from, the investors, John Henry, Arthur Blank. I think they're looking for a very specific type of chief executive when it comes to who may replace Jay in that job.
Andy talked about this fan forward survey. Just put your fan cap on. I know how much you love the game. You play it to go alongside your reporter's hat. What sort of changes do you think we might see in the coming years?
I had a chance to talk with Andy about this a few weeks ago when they introduced sort of the fan-forward concept and what they were trying to do with this Council of Creators going forward. And I think it's kind of twofold. One, you look at it, what we do from a media partner standpoint. And as he pointed out, we've done a lot of different things in the fall. I was at the RSM Classic as the reporter there and doing walk-and-talk interviews with players. You're seeing a lot more engagement from a player perspective than we have seen in the past. Great question from you about actually miking up players. I think that's what most fans want to see. But I think the other side of it is the idea that fans are now having a say in what the product's going to look like, not just from a TV perspective, but the idea that on property, when fans are at events, what do they want the product to look like? This has been a year-long process for the PGA Tour, and I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that come from this.
What's your sense as to how the tour will begin this new year? I think about my partner on Live from Paul McGinley always says you need to be on your front foot. Do you sense that the tour is going to get on its front foot here? Why or why not?
I do think so, and this is, again, kind of a year-long governance review of looking at exactly what the tour is going to look like. And Jay, it's important to point out, you did at the beginning, he will remain commissioner of the PGA Tour. I've also been told he's going to be a member of both boards, both on the PGA Tour Inc. and PGA Tour Enterprises side, but bringing in a fresh face, a new perspective, as he said. I think it's very important for the tour as they sort of take this next step into whatever PGA Tour Enterprises is going to ultimately become.
Rex, thank you. We'll catch up with you just a little later. Give you a timeline now. We focus on the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. You go back to June of 2022. LIV tees off in London with the PGA Tour suspending all members competing. That was headlined by Dustin Johnson. 11 LIV golfers later that summer filing an antitrust lawsuit against the tour. Middle of that month, Tiger, Rory hold a players-only meeting, the Delaware meeting. And then in March of 2023, the PGA Tour announcing major changes, including reduced fields in signature events. Continuing, June 6th, they announced the framework agreement. And then January of this year, PGA Tour Enterprises was launched with that initial investment from Strategic Sports Group of $1.5 billion. And then more recently, Greg Norman confirming he will be replaced as LIV Golf CEO. And now Jay Monahan out as PGA Tour, or rather Jay Monahan announcing the search for the CEO, and he'll remain as PGA Tour Commissioner.